making music, but it's just like, I would say like more so pop driven producers. Like I can't, not to say I can't do what they do, but I don't think about it like that. I just kind of sit down, twinkle with shit until it start working, you know what I mean? And that's like been my whole career. All my biggest hits came from just beats I made, just kicking it at the crib for real, just having fun. Like it wasn't like this structured ABC thing. Like, you know, that's why I feel like I get kind of trapped in a box when I go work with somebody and they got all these guidelines and it's like, you know, usually when they say that though, they don't even really know what they want to hear. Like, I've been landing on so many projects where it's this big white board when you walk in and it's like, I need this genre mixed with this genre, with this, da da da. And I just play some shit that blow their head off and it's like, nah, I need this actually, so, you know.
So when you're creating, when you first start the process, do you like to be there with people, getting hyped up, or do you need your solo time to start generating these ideas? How's that work for you?
I'm with it all, but like I said, I just kind of, man, it's a numbers game at this point, and it's like most of my big hits came from beats I was just vibing with, you know, just at the crib, so I try to just always have a plethora of that, just stuff that's like the raw hit boy. I can, you know, conform and go take somebody's chord structure and turn it into a full beat, a full song, whatever you want to call it, but the raw hit boy shit is like, I'm just having fun. And that's like, I look at FL Studio, which I've been using for 20 years now. I look at it as a straight video game, you know, I always have. So it's like, making beats is purely fun to me.
Beautiful. And that's something I love, that, you know, something like FL Studio can be a replacement for video games that can take that spot. And like, right now, we're a room full of people who like getting out of the house and seeing other people. But that's not everybody. There's people watching this on video later on YouTube. What would you say to people who are, you know, spending time doing video games? Why switch over from that video game to this video game? What's rewarding about it?
Man, in this day and age, I wouldn't even say dude, they caking up. What's the new genre, boys or something like that, where it's like, the point of it is to be distorted, like overly distorted.
All right, question about your background. Really interesting relationship you've had with your father over the years. When for people who don't know your backstory, your father's only been out of prison 30 years. When he's been out, he spent a lot of time with you, making a lot of records, something like 700 vocal tracks that he's done with him from the time that he's been out, now he's back in. It seems to me growing up, you almost had these two male figures in your life. Your father, who you probably didn't see a ton being in prison, and then your uncle. For those of you guys who don't know him, he was in a big R&B group called True.
Yeah.
They were kind of a little bit clean cut, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It was popular when they had the hits, they had dance moves,
Yeah, so this is like two totally different worlds, both in music. One, your father who's living a life that some people just rap about, and then your uncle who has this more, like, kind of clean R&B background. What's one thing you learned that was positive from each of them that you think shaped you one out?
Man, for real, man, I owe my uncle a lot, because like, when I really decided like I wanted to start writing music and really get into it, I was like 13 years old. And we had a conversation and we talked about like school. You know, and I was like, he was like, bro, like you can go hard in school, you can go to college and graduate and still not be able to get a job necessarily. Or if you want to focus on this music right now, take it serious, and when you get to where you want to be, you'll be a very happy man. And I listen to his advice, you know what I mean? And really just take the music serious. You know? Yeah, my uncle like just really pushed me into believing in myself. Really like told me it's possible if I really want to take it there.
So it seems like you cultivate a real work ethic for yourself from early on, late teenager, working on beats all the time. If you don't have people to collaborate with yet, and you want to develop the skills, how would you recommend someone young go about structuring their time so that they can actually get good at doing this?
Man, there was a time when Hit Boy was Hit Boys. It was two of us, and my partner at the time was like insane on the keys. Like he had been playing keys in church since he was like 8 years old. So we like 17, 16 at the time. He dead nice, you know what I mean? Like I was like still kind of trying to learn the keyboard. I was just more so completely just like programming music on FL at that time. But you know, after a while we separated, and I was like, yo, I gotta learn these chords, you know what I mean? It's like, and we separated because it was crazy. He like actually went, signed with some people behind my back that I introduced him to, but he was so cold, it was like, we snatched him up, threw me to the wayside, but it made me really go hard. I just started going and sandbags and guitar set, buying books for chords, and, you know, YouTube, I just, you know, you start cracking, so I was like on YouTube heavy, looking at musicians, gospel musicians, R&B, you know, keyboardists, whatever I could, just to really learn, like, you know, that chord structure and that, you know, to learn about melodies more, you
go from a certain point where you consider yourself not being a musician to then being a musician? How do you think of that word, musician? How's that work in your world?
If you can put some music together that people enjoy, like you're a musician, like it don't matter how you come together. Like man, they got what? Band lab now. This kid's like 17 years old making slaps on band lab, like right on your phone. They don't gotta even go to the studio no more. So, you know, it's just a new day, man. You gotta embrace it all.
I mean, I go back and I look at people who were composing with paper and pencil back in the day. It's like, is that much different than going to that studio with me?
Yes, different. But I mean, you know, at the same time, like, yeah, it was, that was some whole different scientist level shit.
Well, they only had so many colors to work with, and you get to work with so many colors. And part of the whole game of hip-hop and popular music is making new colors, making new sounds. How do you think about that idea of like, are you designing sounds from scratch? Is it going into synthesis? Is it sampling? Where does sound design start for you? Is it with samples, or is it with playing around with synthesis? Or where does production start for you? With samples or with synthesis?
Any and everything. Any and everything. If I'm going through a new VST, if I just hear anything that give me that spark, it's like, oh, I can layer this with this type of pattern, I can put this type of 808 on this melody. Like, I really don't have no like set way. Like, you know, I don't think there is a set way to do it. If you can get it done and make it enjoyable, then you know, just have fun with it.
I think it's a beautiful thing in the hip hop world. You find some people coming from rock and pop backgrounds, and they feel like they have to go through presets and feel like I'm not cheating by going through presets because I'm curating this, I'm putting these together in a new way. How do you feel about that idea of using presets on starting? Is that all right? Is that allowed, or is everything have to be?
And yes, I'm sure it's hits on the radio right now. They got some Sunos, presets, it's mini, whatever the case is. Like, there's really no rules, man. It's like, you know, it's like, I guess us musicians, we might care, like, oh, how he did that, he cheating, but the person that's riding in middle America in his car playing a song on the radio, they're not thinking about it, nothing about how that song was made. They just like, how does it feel? That's it. That's what I try to focus on. Like, man, use the cheat codes, man, shit, period.
So what's a good way to use, because AI is something that people are talking about these days, what's a good way you think to use AI that you think can help make music that people connect with instead of just being lame?
I mean, just like, even if you only got a certain VST, or you only got a certain keyboard and the brass doesn't sound like a real brass, play a chord structure, run it through, you know, whatever program you choose, and you can make it sound like, you know, exactly what you did, but just that texture of a real, you know, brass player. Like, just stuff like that, you know, kind of like using it as a MIDI. Like, you know, if I play a chord structure and I want to turn it into a string or violin, like, that just makes it an easy process.
All right. I want to ask you one more general question about production stuff before we go into some specific records. And who knows, maybe we have some people in the audience who want to ask about some specific records. Maybe we can leave a few minutes for that yet. But general question here is, what is a producer? Because some people from other genres, they almost gatekeep the term producer. People in hip hop are in FL Studio, they're making a track, and they think they're producer. Producer, yeah, they manage people. They create teams, they oversee budgets. But that word producer has been used to mean so many different things. What does the word producer mean to you? What do you think it should be?
I think the producer is just the overseer, man, the person that's supposed to, from inception to the song is out to the people, just make sure that it's on track, and just make sure that the product is the highest level that it can possibly be. I was talking to my boy yesterday, and he was saying how, it's kind of like how they'll say, like, a producer that's not touching the beat, you know what I mean? But it's like getting the credit, like that's like not right, but it's like, what about the beat makers that make the beat, but they don't consider them producers, you know what I mean? It's like, we really should just put respect on everybody. If you can get an ill beat going, if you can produce a record without touching the beat, like, this is like overseeing the shit, like that's what it's about. Is this shit knocking when you put it in the car? Is it playing through the speakers? Is it knocking on the iPhone? Like, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's interesting, it's almost like producers, like when you're a beat producer, you're a conductor of all these different instruments and samples and MIDI channels. And then when you're the kind of human producer, it's like you've got a whole bunch of human beings, you're doing MIDI channels and your samples, and you're curating them, putting them together. So it's almost like these layers.
Because you got the vision, man. Like, that's what it's about.
Question for you about working with Nas. A lot of people really respect your work with Nas. He's a super respected guy as a lyricist. A lot of people think that the records you made 5 records in a row, Like
Six.
Oh man, wow.
Six songs in 3 years.
That's big. A lot of people credit you with helping revitalize his career, was bringing back to life the band to an even higher level. So, what do you think was different about what you were doing with Nas compared to what was happening before? What do you think you brought to that project?
I was hungry, I'm always like trying to get to it, but like I was really just being like, oh, Hit Boy just made club tracks, like, you know, a click or niggas in Paris or trophies, whatever the case may be, stadium shit. Like I just wanted to make something raw, and the fact that Nas wanted to keep working, he kept you know, pulling up. Maybe artists where we start working and they'll go in my I can't even reach him or whatever. And it's like he was always accessible, always, you know, not flaking on the sessions, like pulling up. So I had to honor that and really just mash out. That's why we made 80 songs in 3 years.
Do you think maybe, except from your father, do you think he's the guy you've done the most tracks with, or is there something you've done even more tracks with?
Probably Don Kennedy. That's another one of mine. I've done a lot of stuff with him.
Tell me a little bit about those records. What do you think was special about those records?
About the Nas stuff?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think at the end of finishing 6 records in, when you look back at it, like, what are you most proud of having done?
I just think it was a dope moment, you know what I mean? Because we like started during COVID, you know, so it was just like a special thing at the time. We ended up winning Grammy for Best Rap Album. And just like, I don't know, it just was a time capsule, man. It was like, just everybody was paying attention to what we was doing, and we just kept delivering. We just kept honoring what was going on in that moment.
Beautiful. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of good deal and a bad deal, because you reached out to people on MySpace, got picked up, major production deals, went to another major production deal, working with Kanye West, some of the biggest names in the industry, making some of the biggest hits each year. But at the same time, you weren't necessarily seeing the flowers and the income that you thought you should be seeing from that. People talk about this in the rock music world as that trope of, you know, VH1 behind the music, we were doing these platinum records, but we were in debt at the end of it, you know? So I think in some genres, people always knew about that. You tell me, in hip-hop, are people as aware that sometimes you can get what seems to be a golden deal, but it isn't as golden as you think it's going to be? What should people look for in their deals to make sure that they're not getting taken advantage of?
And just because of my specific positioning and me being in my deal for 18 years and being locked in, no matter how much success I had, like being a part of huge records, like, you know, not advancing, like I